Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast that's about other podcasts, where every single week we talk about a podcast that we recommended last week in a book club style discussion. I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach.
And today we are going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite shows, Reply All. Mm-hmm. Specifically an episode that I found just the other day. I was just listening to Spotify, and now I've got on my own Spotify account now. So Spotify actually knows me. It's not just recommending High School Musical. It's recommending.
So it doesn't know you well enough yet.
Some of those songs are good. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm not judging you. I'm just making fun of you.
So I got recommended this episode, and I loved it. So the name of the episode is The Case of the Missing Hit. And what did you think about it, Zach?
That was a great episode because this is something I really relate to. I really, really relate to it because, obviously, we've listened to a couple episodes. We've listened to at least one that we've talked about on the show before. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a revisit, but it's a really great show.
It was a long time ago.
And it was it's a very different vibe. It really does kind of take technology out of its box that it's normally in and looks at it through the kind of the human lens. So it's not ever about a hard technology show, but it always has that kind of backdrop of kind of our relation to that technology. Yeah. So the first one we covered was the one where he got called by a scammer and ended up I'm going to look up the show notes on that one too, and I'll put it in the show notes because it is mind blowing to listen to them tracking. He literally tracks down.
That's one of the best pieces of podcast anything that I've ever listened to.
I could not stop listening to that episode. And I mean, this one wasn't
it like a 2 or 3 parter?
I think it is like a 3-parter, but it just keeps getting better. It's really, really great. So Reply All is just in general a great show. It sounds amazing. Their topics are awesome. Hosted by PJ Vogt and Alex Goldman. Mm-hmm. And this one's all about PJ going on a very strange adventure that I feel like a lot of us can relate to. At least I did. Because before we get into it too far, if you haven't listened to this episode, stop this right now.
Unless you're in the live stream, then stop our podcast right now. Go listen to this episode. Because first of all, we're going to do a lot of spoilers, but second of all, it's definitely worth it.
It's really so worth it. It's worth hearing it first, and then you can join the conversation with us about it.
Anybody will like this episode. It's not like geared towards any type of person. Anybody.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It is not like a tech-forward show where you have to be like some advanced technologically inclined user to be able to do it. It just kind of has that in the background. It's a very relatable show. So, spoilers abundant from here on out. So this episode is about PJ connecting with a guy who, what was he doing? He was driving his girlfriend home one day, and he was like singing this song to her, and she's like, "What are you singing?" And he's like, "Come on, you know this song. It was so popular in the 90s. Everybody's heard this song." And he started singing it and like trying to get her to like pick up the tune like we all do, and she did not know that song at all. He then went on a journey of trying to find it.
Like 3 hours, stayed up all night long.
He said the whole way home he was on his phone trying to figure out what it was. He got home. She's like, "I'm going to bed." He's like, "Okay, I'm going to stay up and do this." He stayed up for another 3 hours looking for this song online. Could not find it.
The dedication this guy ended up having.
Like
nuts. And I loved it.
Because the culmination of that dedication is Reply All episode.
Yes. But I mean, okay, so the next step is he ends up, because I forget what he does. He works in media anyway.
I think they said he's a cinematographer or something like that. He creates videos. So
he went to just there at his house, and he remembered so many lyrics to this song. First of all, this guy's memory is insane. He remembered there's a lot of songs that we could do the same thing.
The different like parts. Because, okay, are you talking about him recording his song?
Yes.
He went through and he, by voice, it does not sound good. I mean, obviously, some guy be like, do, 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 do. You know what I mean? But
and then layering each part,
multi-track, layered the bass like that, and then came back, is like, okay, now time for a guitar solo, and then did the guitar solo. And then he went in and he put the vocals on it. Like he did everything on it. Fanatical dedication to figuring this out. And so the whole point of doing that was so he could put it through, what do they call it? Songkick?
I don't remember what the name of the app. It's like Shazam.
Yeah, it's like Shazam, but it can just hear it. Like you can sing the tune and it can pick it up. So instead of like Shazam, if the radio's playing it, you can turn on your Shazam and pick it up. This is more like you can literally sing a melody from it and it'll hear it. So he goes and he does that. It doesn't pick it up. He is searching everywhere to find what this song is. One of my favorite parts of this is all of his friends were like, I got to know what that song is, because I think he got to all of them. He talked to every single one of his friends about it so much. They're like,
okay, there was a point in this podcast where I was like, did we just confirm multiple dimensions?
Maybe.
Because I'm like, maybe this song doesn't exist in our dimension. Yeah, but he somehow
has tapped into otherworldly songs. So he goes through I can't remember how PJ found this guy.
No,
he emailed him, right?
Yes, they have a segment. I forget what it was called, but it's basically people call in or email in with like tech problems, and this was their basically tech support. That's what this episode was. It was an insane amount, and that's the thing about this show. It's almost like investigative journalism in a way, and that's what this was basically.
Yeah,
I mean, the same with that other episode, but they do take it like so far. I mean, they talk to so many different people. Everybody that might possibly know what this song was, they talk to. Yeah,
so he makes his song. He gets in touch with Reply All at some point after that. You know, I think he had been searching for a long time, because they said it was, years that he'd been trying to figure this out?
Yeah.
So he gets in touch with Reply All, and PJ has ideas. So first of all, he starts doing kind of the same thing where he's like, okay, if we can replicate the song, then we could put it out there and we could try to have it heard in its entirety and not him singing the tracks, which is complicated. So he gets his friend, who's a singer-songwriter in California. His friend puts together a band. They take this, I can't remember his name, Justin?
I don't remember. I'm really bad with names. That's why we have to look up everybody's names before we start the show.
Yeah, no, but they fly him out there and they put him with the band, and then he literally is like directing them. He is producing this single. So he has a full band at his disposal, and he's telling he works with each of the different instruments to make sure their part is just how they want it. And so one of the first parts of this episode is you get to hear from his brain, but with a band, what this song sounds like. And it's pretty awesome. They did a great job.
I will say, I mean, this is jumping way far ahead. His version sounds very much like the real version.
Yeah.
I mean, like exactly like
it. It was on point. So he does that. They end up talking to the lead singer of the Bare Naked Ladies, because the entire verse part of this sounds really Bare Naked Ladies style, especially how he describes it when he's going through and kind of singing this song for people, because for the longest time, that's what he was doing. He was singing this song. So after Tyler gets with the band, they make a song, and PJ starts playing the produced version of this song that is just in Tyler's head for a lot of people. He plays it for an entire group of people at Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah.
He plays it for... Did he play for the guy from Bare Naked Ladies?
Yes.
And he also got some really cool insight about kind of the industry and the possibility that this song was made and just vanished into thin air. Because
I actually learned a lot about the record industry from this episode.
Yeah, and
I had no clue.
I think that
the 90s.
There's something interesting in that time period. You know, I'd never really put together that was the most money they were ever making, and then it was kind of like the .com boom, but of music, and people were just getting signed and tossed around, and it was craziness. So
he said it was a good analogy. They were just trading artists like penny stocks. They're just like, okay, this might work. Oh, it didn't work. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And just picking somebody else up off the street, basically.
So he goes through all of these people. He talks to producers. And towards the end, he talks to one who was, I guess she produced the Bare Naked Ladies themselves. And so a lot of times people would be like, okay, she produced the Bare Naked Ladies. We're kind of like that, so we should just go straight to her. And so he went and talked to her. And apparently, it was funny how he didn't introduce her as also having gone into academia afterwards, because she starts talking about how the brain,
very quickly.
Yeah. So she starts talking about how this could be just an amalgamation of a bunch of different songs he heard from his childhood.
She called it a hybrid.
Yeah, just a hybrid of different things he's heard all throughout his childhood, and he kind of transformed it into a song. And so then you're like, what? They've gone through all this work?
And the people at the Rolling Stones were like, we know all songs. There's no way this exists. This is some giant hoax.
Yeah, they thought he was being trolled.
Yeah, they really did.
Elaborately, but still trolled. And so you get to this point in the episode, and you're like, is this all a lie? Has all of this been, did he just get them to make a song that was just out of his brain?
He got his own song recorded finally by real musicians.
Yeah, and it's a weird song.
This is the best con ever.
Honestly, we have already kind of spoiled it, but then he posts on just Facebook. He posts the lyrics on Facebook, he posts the song on Facebook, and he finds the guy who recorded this actual song after all hope is lost.
He couldn't find it on Google. And I mean, they did a lot of research. It wasn't just like search just a few words.
No, I'm sure it was every lyric because here's the thing. Tyler knew like all of the song.
All of it.
Like the whole song. He literally, you can hear him when he's recording with the band. He sings out a guitar solo for the lead guitarist, and it sounds very, very similar to what you end up hearing as the song that he was referring to the whole time. It's
what?
Okay, yeah, he's Vlado's on it. We already got it. Oh, and now he's even got it online too.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Here we got some lyrics.
Vlado's our moderator tonight. Can you read these?
Oh, see, there's the G string. You're right. Better than Venus de Milo and a G string. Better than the promise of a good one night fling. Better than a big book of Betty Page pictures.
I thought it was Betty White.
Kirk did say Betty White pictures, so that's where his mind is. Even if it came with a year subscription. Better than a ticket to a Holyfield ringside. Better than the daughter of a sultan for a bride.
Better than the cherry whipped cream sundae. Better than a week that'll never have a Monday.
Is that, you were waiting for that too? Yeah, that is how it sounds. Like it sounds like 1 week from Bare Naked Ladies.
I want to feel that love.
That was the strangest part to me because it does sound like U2. As soon as he goes to the chorus, it's like U2. It's just like long drawn out and like really like interesting. But yeah, it's a really interesting song. His version is actually not bad.
No, it's not.
It's odd, but he recorded the whole thing in his house. He played all the instruments, and it sounds great for that.
But what I found fascinating, I mean, the whole story's fascinating, but I really did find his story fascinating, and what I learned about the record industry, about how like we said, they were just trading people and stuff like that. And the fact that this could be a thing that happened, and it's almost what happened, is they would test a market with a single from an artist, and the single may never get produced and put out. It was just testing the market, like in a local market.
Yeah.
I never knew that was a thing.
It just is so not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Everything is just so different now that this will never be something that's going to be ongoing. And honestly, they were, without finding the actual guy who wrote this song, they would have never known.
No.
It would have been gone. It would have been exactly like the guy from Bare Naked Lady said, where it can just evaporate, because it would have. If they wouldn't have literally chance connected with him specifically, that's it.
So this is on the internet because of this episode of Reply All.
Yes.
By the way, shout out to Vlado from It's Not Rocket Surgery, because he's in the chat and he sent us the link.
He's helping us out. He sent us stuff.
Yep. The song is by Evan Olson, and the name of the song is So Much Better.
Yeah, and first of all, since Vlado's helping us out, also check out Vlado's show, because just like he's listening to us to wake up in the morning, that's what you can do with his show. It's a great radio show, and it's really fun to listen to. We've actually covered them on the show, so if you want to check them out, we have an episode on it.
Yep. So yeah, listen to that episode and then listen to our episode again.
Yeah, listen to all the episodes. Listen to more podcasts, everybody.
Yeah. We talked about this many times. We'll talk about this later, I guess. But podcast listening's down, even though everyone's bored. It's because no one's commuting, so a lot of people aren't listening to podcasts right now.
Here's what you need to do.
It's a shame. Go listen to more podcasts.
You need to annoy everyone in your house. You need to put it on loudly in the house on a large speaker, so that everyone can just enjoy it together.
You can put your Spotify onto your Kindle Fire. Just blast it.
Yeah, through the TV. Mm-hmm. Let everybody wake up to the sounds of our voices.
Good morning.
But, okay, here's the thing that got me with this episode. I have done this, obviously not to the level that this guy has. I did not record any home recordings. I did not do anything to this level.
Shucks.
But I had a band stuck in my head for easily 3 to 5 years where I was like, who is this band?
That's a long time.
Yeah, no, because I listened to them a lot in high school. And so it was always one of those things I was like, who is it? And let me just tell you, figuring out who it was amazing. It felt so good. I don't know the name of them right now, but I did save them.
So now you're going to do it again.
Them. No, I can find them now.
Another 3 years later.
No, I can find them now. I'll put that in the show notes too, just so I can prove it. No, but I found out because my roommate played it. We did one night where we'll switch around like who's picking the music and we'll just put on music. And we were doing 2003. We had to keep all our songs in 2003. That's a great year. If anybody ever wants to do that, great year to do that. You got hip hop, you got rock. There's great stuff happening. But he just played it and I was like, oh my God, that's it. And it's like pulling out a splinter. You know what I mean? Where you're like, oh, thank you. And it was done. And literally that is how that episode feels. This episode, by the time you get to the end and you get to hear the actual song that they had gone on this incredible journey to try and find, they'd built out fake versions of it. They'd done everything to try and find it. And then you get to hear it at the end. It feels good. It is a satisfying episode.
And I love how PJ never gave up. Like, there was so many people who was like, dude, this is a dead end. Like, this is made up, or this is a hybrid. He made this up in his head. But both him and Tyler were like, no. This is real.
I started to think it was made up because of how much he knew. That's the thing. Because it's like, okay, either like it was a real 50-50 for me. Either this is a real thing that he listened to a bunch of times, or this is in his brain because he knows all of it. Like every possible little nuance of the song, he knew it. He even put in like a little weird flute part.
And he knew the guitar solo and even how the guitar solo sounded.
Yeah, he was like, okay, we need this one to have we need this one to have more effects on it. We need this to be a little less. He was seriously, go listen to this episode of Reply All. It is incredible. I don't know. It was a great podcast to listen to, and I felt great by the end of it. They also know how to put a story together because
they really do.
You're waiting for it the whole time.
You have to think about like a show like this. This probably took 6 to 8 months, maybe
you would
a year.
So? Yeah.
To put all the parts to this together. Think about how much work it has to be. I mean, we take about that long to make our episodes as well.
Mm-hmm. Years in planning.
But yeah, think about how difficult it would be to have all that recording and then somehow, first of all, put it together into a digestible piece of audio, but then also weave it into a really good story. There's an artistry there that's kind of...
There definitely is.
Same thing with like This American Life and these other, very large... Radiolab. Radiolab does a great job of the same thing. So
yeah.
They'll take this 2 or 3 year long discovery thing that they were working on, and then they'll weave it into this amazing story. And I mean, it's something to behold.
Yeah, it's great storytelling. Seriously, there was no part of this episode where I wasn't completely locked in. Because, this is something I really relate to because that's happened to me before. Have you ever had that happen? Do you ever stick on things like you're like, can't remember what? And also, I feel like everyone, well, my family at least, they're like, why do you know so much about movies? And it's because that would also do it to me. The other thing that would kind of like stick in my head and I couldn't stop thinking about was, who was that guy in that movie? That always messed with me. And then IMDb came out. And I was
Ooh.
like, I can find out who was that guy in that movie. I can figure out exactly who it was, and I'm not going to have to question it anymore. So that's why I remember a lot of actors and what movies they were in and things like that now, because there's solutions for that.
So, guys, everyone's struggling a little bit right now. Some much worse than others.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have a lot of extra time on our hands. Something that we can do with that extra time that helps a lot of people, and also, I mean, it helps podcasts for one thing, because you're going to be leaving reviews, and it also helps feed the hungry, which is amazing that you can do both of the things at the same time.
Yeah, that's an important thing right now.
So Podchaser is doing a promotion right now, and they're hashtagging reviews for good. And every review that you leave on any podcast on Podchaser, they're giving 25 cents to Meals on Wheels. And then any podcast that responds to that, because that's what's cool about Podchaser is on Apple, I can't say thank you for that review, or if they give bad criticism, be like, well, how can we do better? You know, we don't have that.
Don't lie. We would say, how dare you?
No.
I'm just kidding. We
on Podchaser, you can. There can be a discourse there, and it's amazing. But this is an ad for Podchaser. This is an ad for this amazing thing that they're doing.
Yeah. No, I mean, we love Podchaser, and I mean, it's the IMDb for podcasts. So
yeah,
they're a cool platform, and we've talked with some of the people that work there, and it's a good group, and this is a cool thing. There are people in need, and so and generally it's a good thing. So
yeah, so go over to Podchaser, leave reviews on any show that you listen to. Hey, leave a review on the PDS.
Yeah,
and we'll respond to you, and then we'll help you donate money as well. So we'll triple that donation that you make.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say, 1, how dare you? 2, how could you? And I don't think there's a 3. There's just 2.
Wait, what?
I would say that in response to their reviews.
Why?
Because I'm assuming they're going to be bad.
Why? Okay. But yeah, go to podchaser.com, leave reviews, use the hashtag reviews for good. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
If you listen to podcasts, this is something that you can do to make a difference. And I think it's a great thing. It was just for like 2 weeks, but they extended it to the end of April. So we can continue talking about it, and we can go and talk and review the shows that we've all talked about on the PDS. So I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to do some good with something we were already doing. We were already leaving reviews. Now I'll just make sure we do more reviews
during this time.
We can do some good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that brings us to next week's discussion. And I found this show through Paul from Varmints. It was literally, I saw a tweet thread with them in it, and that's how I found it. I'm like, this sounds like an interesting show. Listened to it today. I'm like, yep, this is something we are going to recommend. The name of the show is called Planthropology.
I like it.
The episode, and so it's all about plants, but you're like, I don't care about plants. No. I found an episode that is an amazing episode.
You only think you don't care about plants.
And it's so good. It's the episode number is bonus 2, Planthropology Live, plants in sci-fi and fantasy. So they talk about the role that plants have played in movies and in books. They talk about Harry Potter. They talk about Lord of the Rings, a lot of Lord of the Rings. Loved it. And so it's a very good discussion. And I will say, it's a very well produced show. And we've never done a live episode, but I'm pretty sure our live episode will not sound as good as this one. It sounded really good.
These are live episodes-ish. We cut some things occasionally.
I meant like live in front of a studio audience. This was a presentation at like a conference.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was, but it sounded really good.
Yeah, no, we haven't done that, but we want to.
One day. Podcast Movement, book us.
Yep. Does that work? Podcast Movement, please.
All right. Well, I think that ends the PDS for this week. And remember,
there's always more to discover. Thank you for listening to the Podcast Discovery Show. We have a few things we'd like to tell you. First, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at the PDS Official or in our Facebook group, the Podcast Discovery Club.
Secondly, leaving a rating or review on iTunes helps tremendously in giving us visibility and also visibility to the podcast that we recommend. You can also check out our Patreon page to get exclusive bloopers, old episode archives, and other exclusive content while supporting the show.
Finally, seriously, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you about what you love about podcasts. And thank you for being a part of all of the things that we do.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at